Hi, I'm Callie and welcome to Kapowski Reads. This is my May wrap up and I am going to start with my reading stats for this month and then I'm just going to go through every book that I have read. That sounds like a good plan. I finished 12 books this month. Well, last month. I was reading right up until bedtime on the 31st of May because I was determined to finish that last book that I only had 90 pages left of. And I did finish it. So finishing the month on 12 books, 3,739 pages, which is still less than I am used to reading, but this entire year has been a lot slower for me, so I'm taking that as a win. 12 is a great number and that is a lot of pages, so I'm delighted with these results. My reading moods are the same as they almost always are. Mysterious, dark, adventurous and emotional, which sounds about right. I had read a few books that were quite joyful and I kind of thought that maybe that would have more of an impact on my pie chart, but alas, it did not. So we're just having the same results as usual. My genres were also a little bit different this month, with YA being right up at the top, which I suppose was to be expected, and short stories taking second position, but I didn't expect the third place to be split between so many genres. So that is quite different for me. It's not usually such an even split. And my average rating this month was 3.69 stars. I was going to say percent. That would be an awful percentage. 3.69 stars. And I'm happy with that. That is good. That is on the upper level of starness. I definitely kind of feel like if I get 3.5 or above, that's a win. I am trying to be a little bit harsher when it comes to DNFs. If I'm not loving a book, then I can put it down and just not go back to it, because otherwise I'm spending my time reading something I'm really not liking, and I'm trying, but I feel bad when I give up on a book. So I have had a few lower rated books this month and I probably should have stopped reading some of those. But on to the books. I am going to go through them in no real order, somewhat alphabetical, but also based on size, which is purely due to the fact that I've just moved my pile of books from my bookshelf over to my bed. So I'm going to go through them as I come to them. That feels like the only plan that I can make up right now. First up is actually the last book that I read this month, which is Dread Nation by Justina Ireland. This is a book that I started reading in February, and then it got to a really difficult part of the book. It was traumatic, so I put the book down, and then suddenly it was the end of May and I had only 90 pages left, but I had to put the book down at that point because I needed to. And then I picked it up and I whizzed through those 90 pages. I really enjoyed this book. I loved the protagonist. I enjoyed the sort of side characters as well. This was a really thought-provoking book. Despite it being fiction, it really did make me think a lot about a subject matter that I didn't know too much about. And I am never going to say no to a book that has strong female protagonists who are kicking butt and, you know, saving the day. That's what I want. That's what I want out of a book. I really enjoyed this. I gave this book 4 stars and I have ordered the second book in the duology because I need to know what happens next. I don't have space to put any more books, but that's a problem for me of, a couple of days when the book arrives. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. Next up is The Honeys by Ryan LaSala. This book and Dread Nation are actually both on my 23 in 2023 challenge, yeah, list. The list of 23 books I want to read this year. So I got 2 of them done this month. I love this book. I loved everything about this book, the characters, the setting, the intrigue, and the fact that I had no idea what direction the book was going to go in. I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. Shiny stars. Oh Marina Girl by Graham Leroney. This book was bizarre. in the best kind of way. It is underrated and I think it is excellent. It kept me guessing, and while I have read this book from start to finish, I'm not 100% sure what actually happened. It was very odd, very trippy, and I loved it and highly recommend. I gave it 4 stars. I'm going to go on to my ebooks now before I forget, because otherwise I'll forget and I'll talk about everything but the ebooks. I read 2 short story ebooks. First one was Tiger Came to the Mountain by Sylvia Marino Garcia. This was super short. I just wish there was more of it, and I know that that's not the point of a short story. I found this to be atmospheric and quite emotional to read as well, and it was quite tense, and I gave this 4 stars as well. I'm just rounding up. Some of these got 3.5, but I'm saying 4 because that's what I gave them. I then read White Cat, Black Dog by Kelly Link. This was a short story collection as well that was kind of loosely inspired by fairy tales, and I absolutely loved some of the stories and was okay with some of the others. So it kind of evened out at a 3 star, but that doesn't reflect my enjoyment of some of these stories, because some of the stories I was giving 5 stars to. It's just law of averages, I suppose. Next, we have potentially my lowest rated book of the month. I think it was. And this might surprise some people. If you know my usual reading tastes, you will know I'm a huge fan of Agatha Christie. However, I'm not a huge fan of Agatha Christie writing as Mary Westmacott. I read Unfinished Portrait, which was the Read Christie pick for May, and I didn't like this book. There were some points where I did like it, but generally it just felt like reading a book about somebody being a bit woe is me when their life was comparatively amazing during a time period where there were so many people that really did not have anything to sort of read about someone whinging about not being as wealthy as they used to be, but still being ridiculously wealthy. Was, oh, I don't know, maybe it's because like the economy right now is awful and everything's expensive, and like my bills have gone up so much and my pay has gone up 0. So maybe it was just extra annoying to me right now because I'm like, ah, stop. You don't even know. I didn't find the protagonist enjoyable, and I feel like every other character, every side character was far more interesting. There were a few moments here and there where the book did get kind of interesting and I was wanting to know what was going to happen. But ultimately, my life is no richer for having read this book. I gave it 2 stars, but that is me being kind and rounding up. I then had Beauty Queens by Libba Bray. This book was recommended to me after I had mentioned that I loved Patricia Wants to Cuddle, and I really liked this book. I really did. I thought it was fun, and it was just really it was a joy to read. It kind of went downhill a little bit for me when the pirates showed up because I didn't like them as much as the Beauty Queens, who I felt really grew as characters. And I liked their survival story. Was it realistic? Of course not. There was nothing in this book that was realistic, but I really enjoyed it. It made me smile, it made me laugh, and it was just fun. It was a fun summer read. A word of warning though, if this is relevant to anybody, the contestants all have bios in this book. So a little biography about who they are, what they think, their heights, but it also has their weights in pounds. If that's something, and that's something that, you know, maybe isn't great for everybody's brains. So something to be aware of. But yeah, fun tale of survival with Beauty Queens, and I loved this. I gave it 4 stars and it was just super fun and silly. I wanted fun and silly and I got fun and silly. Another Agatha Christie with Sinister Spring. I was worried I wasn't going to get to it, and I did. Short story collection yet again. I gave this 3 stars. Again, it fell curse to what happens with short story collections. Some are strong, some are not so much. And I had read a few of these before, and it also included my least favourite short story. So It was still fun though, and it was still an enjoyable springtime read, but now I'm feeling quite summery. So I'm glad I read it in May, because it's so sunny right now that I don't even think I could consider reading it now. It's too late. The time has passed. Paper Cup by Karen Campbell. This was my Scottish book club book of the last couple of months. This had an enjoyable protagonist. She was a lovable protagonist. There was a dog that I enjoyed, but ultimately there were a few moments of darkness and just hating a lot of people in this book. I felt really tense and just worried throughout the entirety of this book. I was so nervous and anxious reading it that I don't think I got the enjoyable experience that a lot of my friends got. I ended up giving this book 2.5 stars, but I did really enjoy the main character, and I enjoyed sort of her journey, like literally her journey. The scenery was just, it sounded so pretty and so nice. But a lot of the side quests I didn't enjoy, and there were some moments that made for some very difficult reading, and I don't seek out that. I don't seek out sadness in my life. I then had a poetry collection, Watch Your Language by Kay Connolly. Super short, but really worth it. This was an excellent poetry collection, I felt, and I really enjoyed every single one. There were no weak links. I ended up giving it 5 stars, and it was just such a really enjoyable spoken word Scots poetry collection. I need to find some more because I enjoyed it so much. Next up was I also had one reread, which was Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. I am rereading this book and The Ballad of Broken Hearts. I'm reading that next month actually with a group of friends, because we are all getting ourselves ready for the 3rd book in the series coming out in September, October. I'm beyond excited about it. I really enjoyed this book, and I first read this before reading the Caraval series. So now that I've read that, I got a little bit more enjoyment out of this book this time, because I know some of the characters more and I was able to kind of tie things together. So I really enjoyed this, and I'm really looking forward to seeing if there's any other things I can tie in with Caraval when I read The Ballad of Broken Hearts. I will find out, and I will surely let you know. I gave this 4 stars again with a reread, so it's still a book I enjoy. And my last book of the month totally goes with my t-shirt, Reach for the Stars by Matt Cragg. I love this book so much. I had to go make a playlist, and I've been listening to pop music from 1996 to 2006 ever since. I love this book. It was fun. It was gossipy. It was so gossipy. It was like reading a huge 500-page copy of smash hits, but they were actually giving you the proper gossip. And the drama. Oh, the drama. I loved it. I think like I'm just a wee gossipy fishwife. And I really loved it. This was such a fun and joyful book for me. It sent me on a nostalgic little trip, and I'm still kind of on it. I'm feeling very nostalgic right now, and this book made me happy. It just brought me joy, and what more can I ask for from a book? I gave it 5 stars. Of course, I love this book. I'm not going to shut up about it for a wee while, I think. So it was really hard to choose my book recommendation of the month, my favourite book. I would love to know what your favourite book was of May. I found it really hard to pick. So I was torn, like Natalie Imbruglia. I was torn between Reach for the Stars and The Honeys. And I thought about it, and I think I'm confident in saying that The Honeys just made it to the top of that podium. This is my favourite book of May, because this book was such a joy to read. It kept me guessing, and I was so on the edge of my seat. I wanted to know what was going to happen next. I was so attached to the main character, and I loved the environment, the setting, the secrets. the reveals, I thought that this was such an enjoyable reading experience, and I can see myself reading it again and again and again. And it really had that little bit of like creepy girl gang, which I love, but it also made me doubt myself. And I really love when a book makes me doubt my own brain. This did it. I love that. So I'm gonna try and hold them. This was my me wrap up. The pile is kind of squint, but I'm not foolish enough to try and tip that to make it straight. Yeah, these were my books. I had a good reading month and I'm really happy with how it went. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!